Good morning. If you are with us on Sunday Facebook Live or any of our other streaming platforms, and if you are watching a recording of this service at any time of day, greetings. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalists of Transylvania County. I am Virginia Rush, a member of the Worship Committee, and I thank you for joining us today. I have a few announcements to highlight from the newsletter. Please read your email copy for full details. Our outdoor, safe-distanced Tuesday picnics continue. Fellowship on the Green is for anyone who wishes to come with their mask and a packed lunch to sit and chat with others around the circle of chairs and picnic tables between 11:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. Virginia McDonald will be hosting a bookmark making workshop. She has every Disney character, wild and farm animals, flowers, Halloween, and Christmas themes. Please contact Virginia to let her know that you are interested, and she will then announce a date that works for most. The dates to present the 2021-22 budget to the congregation will be this week. On Thursday, May 6th at 7 p.m. and Saturday, May 8th at 4 p.m. They will both be held via Zoom. A memorial service for David Parker will be held online on Wednesday, May 12th at 2 p.m. Thank you for joining us in this sacred place during these troubled times, from the safety of your homes in a community consecrated by our presence and our commitment. We are a welcoming and inclusive congregation. We invite your participation and welcome you whoever you are, without regard to your race, color, age, gender orientation, politics, or abilities. We require no creed or particular religious belief, asking only that you bring your goodwill and an open heart. Our mission is to support individual spiritual journeys and to promote social, economic, and environmental justice. To any guests or newcomers we have watching with us today, thank you for taking a chance and taking the time to find us online and to join us for worship. And to our members and friends, please use the chat to commune with each other, to reconnect as a UUTC family, and to express your appreciation. Our call to worship is Everything Possible, sung by Terry and Daniel Sandoval. Please relax and let the music lead you into the spirit of this worship service.
We have cleared off the table, the leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I have told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. As the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
They're all
raise children and some never do. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible for you. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but seek out spirits true.
If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they will give the same back to you.
You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
The opening words are by Father Thomas Keating. Welcome. I welcome everything that comes to me today because I know it's for my healing. I welcome all thoughts, feelings, emotions, persons, situations, and conditions. I let go of my desire for power and control. I let go of my desire for affection, esteem, approval, and pleasure. I let go of my desire for survival and security. I let go of my desire to change any situation, condition, person, or myself. I open to the love and presence of the eternal and its action within. Come, let us worship together. We will now light our chalice, and then I will read the words of Dr. David Breeden, Senior Minister of First Unitarian Society in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He has written several books on theological topics and translates the writings of philosophers of classical antiquity. We tender this flame, opening the book, turning to a page yet to be written, opening a story yet to be told. May we fill this fresh page wisely. May we write a new story into being. May we together inscribe the page with hope. Please join us in our first hymn of the morning, number 86. Blessed Spirit of my life. The words will be on your screen.
Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity. Let me know serenity. Fill me with a vision. Clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find me. Hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition, and when life is done for me, let love be my legacy.
Now comes the time in our service when we have the chance to share our joys and sorrows. We believe that joys are magnified, worries reduced, and grief eased by sharing them with this beloved community. I invite those of you who are watching this on Sunday morning to participate by typing any joys and sorrows you may wish to share in the comments of the streaming platform you are using. I won't see them, but will include a candle for them at the end. I light a candle for those whose work allows us to live our lives easier and safer. Those on our front lines who have been asked again and again to be heroes in healthcare, essential services, and education. May this light bring comfort to those who serve. I light a candle for those who continue to research and administer vaccines with much gratitude. Their efforts and commitment bring new hope, a gift we have been given after the past year of fear. May this light bring honor to those who serve the new fight against COVID-19. I light a candle of gratitude for those who have committed themselves to stand on the side of justice, speaking out and taking action, and advocating for those who have been denied their rights. May this light bring courage to those who speak up. And finally, I light a candle for any care or any hope that you are not yet ready to share. May this light, kindled by all our hearts, be a torch you can carry forward, knowing that we hold you in our hearts. We now have a brief moment of silence as Reverend Bob comes to the pulpit to lead the prayer.
Please center yourself. Ground yourself. Feel gravity holding you to this place. I invite you to take a deep breath in and to let it out to prepare for this time of prayer. Spirit of love and life, we who are gathered here this day come from many places. We arrive from being on the road. We arrive from our breakfast nooks, our couches, our family rooms. We who are here yearn for the moment in which we can all be together. And so may our prayers at this point reach out to those that we miss, that we do not see from time to time. Spirit of love and life, may we be motivated to drop a note in the mail, pick up the phone, or send a text or email. For we are in a time of separation. And it is not good to be alone. Spirit of love and life, we also ask the remembrance of grief, of the stories of our lives in which we have suffered loss. May we remember, too, that new achievements are arriving. Graduations, acceptances into new paths of life, the beauty of a wonderful day and the springtime, with everything budding and growing. Let us remember that the seasons transition, and so must our hearts. As we have left the darkness of winter, let us be warmed by the sunlight and the hopes that we too will be together once again, that we too will feel some new normal. All of these things now let us hold in this moment of silence. In the names of all those known and unknown, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind, we say Amen. And I say, blessed be. Our reading this morning is a result of an exercise that the Unitarian Universalist Association Committee and I did this week as part of our ever-growing understanding of anti-racism, anti-oppression, and multiculturalism. It was an exercise for us to get in touch with our own story and to listen to something of the story of others. You may have done this perhaps in some exercise in your life, but I encourage you to think about who you are and where you are from as I read a bit of what I was able to jot down of my own story. I am from lady slippers and skunk cabbage, car accidents and skinned knees, Saturday dinners at Grandma's, and wild blackberries in the field. I'm from frozen ponds and sweltering asphalt. I'm from unrequited crushes and broken hearts. I am from discarded library books, Victrola records, and hand-me-down shirts. I am from transcendentalist walks in the woods and brave field trips to the big city. I am from Sunday best clothes and kumbaya. I am from polyester leisure suits and sweaty palms at the school dance. I am from avoiding homework and cramming for SATs and GREs and all-nighters. I am from late nights of Mr. Ed reruns when I'm avoiding something I don't know what. I am from my mom and dad, the neighborhood boys, the Chet Huntley, David Brinkley report, and the first grade teacher who I know loved me. I am from the time my brother and I planned a long bike ride and made it to our destination. I am from flute lessons, piano lessons, organ lessons, and the gay men's chorus rehearsals. I am from mowed lawns, Sears Auto Center, selling brooms and chocolates door to door, and punching a clock. I am from long-distance interstate driving and planes to foreign places. I am from countless church committee meetings, interminably long board meetings, and hot wiring cars in the church parking lot when I was bored. I am from love and marriage and first day of kindergarten and grown kids and holiday reunions. I am so many stories. I am. The special music related to the topic is My Little Town by Paul Simon. It is a story song with an eventual liberation. Here is Daniel and Terry Sandoval's rendition.
In my little town, I grew up believing God keeps his eye on us all, and he is to lean upon me as I pledge allegiance to the wall. Lord, I recall my little town, coming home after school, flying my bike past the gates of the factories. My mom doing the laundry, hanging our shirts in the dirty breeze. And after it rains, there's a rainbow. All of the colors are black. It's not that the colors aren't there, it's just imagination they lack. Everything's the same back in my little town, my little town, my little town. Nothing but the dead and dying back in my little town. Nothing but the dead and dying back in my little town. In my little town, I never meant nothing, I was just my father's son. Saving my money, dreaming of glory, twitching like a finger on the trigger of a gun, leaving nothing but the dead and dying back in my little town. Nothing but the dead and dying back in my little town. Nothing but the dead and dying back in my little town. Nothing but the dead and dying back in my little town. Nothing but the dead and dying back in my little town. Nothing but the dead and dying back in my little town.
Thank you, Daniel and Terry. Thank you all for joining us for this service and a sermon which is entitled Liberated by or Liberated from Our Story. I'd like to consider how stories are passed along about the character of our ancestors and how that may build our character, or that keep us going in the midst of our fear and turmoil. Also, how we may repeat internal tapes and criticisms, the stories inside us that try to convince us we may never succeed. I think deeply about the music that has just been shared. And Paul Simon telling about the town in which it was so gray and colorless, the town in which there seemed to be no hope. I imagine the stories of people in our congregation who had to, as the biblical saying says, kick off the dust from our shoes and move on. I think of the stories in which there is so much negativity. The ways in which somebody told us, you'll never make it, you'll never amount to anything. I think of those stories that hold us back and wonder, what is it that finally gave us that moment of liberation to leave that behind, to start afresh with our own journey? Perhaps for you, it was your family of origin and the things that were said or what was modeled for you that held you back. Or maybe it was someone cruel in a moment of saying you'll never make it. Or whatever you say out loud, they ridicule or worse, ignore as if you don't exist or have a contribution. Walking into a congregation such as this one, where you get to start fresh, makes a huge difference. Now, I'll start with this negative side, what I would call a problem-saturated story. There's a whole line of thinking around the ways in which, of course, we go through negative times. But how? How do we have the turnaround moment to realize that we can also come out of that story? I liked what Daniel said about the song of being attracted to the song's cinematic quality, vividly telling the dead-end industrial town where not much changes and there are no great expectations. That story, the tale of growing up, may also lead to the moment of, wait a minute, I am connected to something that is divine. I have a moment of that divine looking over my life, and therefore some strength. Being pushed ahead to the climax of the song, where the teller of the tale saves money, dreams of glory, and flees the depressing place. We have stories that we must bear but escape. Sometimes it's hard. We have things that make us stuck, and I think of that in our society. I mean, back in the late 20th century, there were women's gatherings in which women reacquainted themselves, or for the first time ever, the story of something divine, holy, with the feminine. To learn of the goddess over eons, who might have been forgotten or never told. the solidarity and support of those women's movements of understanding women's voices that may have been left out of history books and claiming her story, her story. I also know from my own experience of the late 20th century mythopoetic men's movement, the whole idea of Iron John and the poet Robert Bly trying to draw out something else, a place of softness and vulnerability, a place of strength through that, in a way that was so much against the surrounding toxic masculinity being taught in society. We had so many ways of reclaiming, of finding new stories. I mean, even think of the AIDS quilts, all being put together, each panel telling the story of someone out of incredible grief and loss. Story helps us where we ourselves do not have the experience that's already processed with the wisdom of our elders. For instance, on the positive side, not just being held back by old stories, but on the positive side now, thinking of the stories in which we were told our family has always made it through rough times. Remember, your great-grandmother sewed up the family Bible and our precious belongings into our bedding as we were force-marched into the desert. Or it comes out from our chosen families as we find our ways, maybe lucky as a child, having a home life that was miserable, but some family where the parent made sure to look you in the face and say, you know, you are always welcome here. And maybe being invited to stay for a meal or a sleepover, in some way to learn a space in which it was safe and you were loved and accepted. These families we find or put together later in life, these chosen families then can share stories of our losses and of our resilience to teach us ways in which we are becoming. Sometimes from the earliest days in which we were sitting at the lap of someone or going to the library as a little kid for story time, sometimes children's stories bring us our story of the brave mouse who was brave enough to ask the lion to spare its life and later comes back to remove a thorn in the paw of that same lion. My first sermon with you back in May of 2020 in this pandemic, remote from my home in Pennsylvania, was on children's books whose stories have continued meaning. Think of that. What book or story do you pick up that was shared with you that taught you a way into the world of the living, into the world of the brave, into the world of those who had agency? Sharing stories where we succeed makes it easier. And it isn't bragging. Sharing your life story, some intense moment, is a way of helping others. Now I understand. As I said before, there are the problem-saturated stories. Stories which did not have an adequate resolution. It's interesting, though, there's a whole bunch of therapists out there who do narrative therapy, who are finding it particularly rich to mine the stories in people's lives that somehow haven't gotten to the point where there's a bit of the resilience, the being able to take action like the little mouse, something that changes it from it's all happening to me to the moment in which, and I took an action. I made a choice. Think back to that song again. It's all happening to me, this dingy town. And then I made a choice. It's important to share solidarity and find others who remind you that you are not the only one. You didn't end up being the only one suffering. There are others with deep sorrow and even PTSD whose stories, when you share with them, you realize, though there was no solution out of it at the time, just the act of sharing with someone else who understands in some way that deep stress, the tension, the nightmares. To know we are not alone is a human need. We need to hear our story reflected back. We have stories, sadly, of being cut off from loved ones as they suffer and die of COVID-19. We have stories of trans folks being beaten or killed. Sadly, we have stories of Me Too and interpersonal violation. We need each other. We need the PTSD support groups, the advocacy organizations that lift up the stories, the pussy hats, the pride flags, the memorials with flags at half-staff, the poetry written after the fact, the documentaries, and the more personal cup of coffee with a neighbor at the kitchen table, or the mother and daughter conversation, the silent moment perhaps among strangers, sharing tears. From what I'm told in my own family, my father told me that my grandfather and my great uncle would make some of their conversations private, out of earshot of my dad when he was younger. Some things were not to be left as a burden to the next generation. The horrors that they suffered in their life did not become a weight on the shoulders of a new generation in a new land with what they hoped would be a boundless future for their children. Family feuds of old were set aside so that a fresh start could be undertaken in this melting pot called America. The deliberate end to a story, the saying, no more, is modeled a bit in that. No, we will not continue the feuds of ages and lands long ago. No, we are in a new place, a new time. No, our children will not be burdened by the devastation visited on us. That's generous. To not inflict trauma on a new generation. To not pass on the bits that would only be a burden. But as a survivor, each of us knowing the ways in which we have survived something, some of us having quite awful survivor stories. It's also understanding that after a while you can be in a peer group or talk to the person who is in that awful story with you, after a while, sadly, you may find by raising those stories with the people around you that they may, so shall we say in the best way possible, be limited, have reached their limit in listening, to look at you with wide eyes of fear that you are telling a story that sounds overwhelming with stress, crisis, and hopelessness. And those strangers, those friends, those neighbors cannot possibly handle what you are saying. When you tell someone your story and they react that way, it hurts. And perhaps you want to withdraw and keep it to yourself. But that's not the way. It's the way to find the narrative therapist looking it up online, or the person who has worked for the advocacy agency to say, please, I need to say my story out loud. I need the whole weight of it to be heard. I need to be seen, for it is so awful. And that's the hope. And that's the hope, that in our world we are a part of friendships yet to be built. The sense that we are part of some larger piece of story and not isolated unto ourselves. The understanding that we need someone to hold our hand and bring us to the point where we have said, it's out. I have let it out. I have been heard. Now, what can we do? I love it in thinking of how I am of Saturday dinners at my grandma's, and the thorns of blackberry bushes poking the blood out of my fingers as I'm eating in the fields. I love how I am of car accidents and skinned knees. I am from so many positive moments and negative as well. My story is I am all of that and more. And I am because I have been able to express my story and listen to others who have stories both the same and unlike my own. Wendell Berry says these words of wisdom. We clasp the hands of those that go before us and the hands of those who come after us. We enter the little circle of each other's arms and the larger circle of lovers whose hands are joined in a dance, and the larger circle of all creatures passing in and out of life who move also in the dance to a music so subtle and vast that no ear hears it except in fragments. We are the community of hope for those finding a new place of vibrancy and life and color. We are the place of sharing of our stories and respecting one another in our journeys. We are the place of adult religious exploration, children and youth religious exploration, book study groups, and all that helps us find those pieces of resilience, that we might reorient our stories as wisdom for others, that we might claim the pain and also our own agency with the support of others to adapt and to grow. We are, each of us, a story, and we are together the saving story for us and those who have yet to find us. Blessed be for being a congregation which holds so many stories. Blessed be for being a religion if it is open to those who are downtrodden and who have been told by their previous religions or lack thereof that they have no place, and yet find it in our message. Blessed be to all the authors who helped you and me find new ways of understanding life, the universe, and everything. We are liberated by and liberated from the stories of the places we have been, the people we have been, and all who have touched our lives. Hopefully more with love on balance with those who have left injury. Thank you for being part of the story of humanity. Thank you for being part of this congregation, if even only for this visit on this service. Thank you for hanging in there until we're back in some way together. We need each other's stories. We need each other to help guide. And we need, whatever we are, reminded and reflected back by those who love us. Thank you. At this point in the service, I ask of you to be generous, to remember that we don't exist without the contributions of so many, of all sizes. It's so hard not to be able to pass this and then receive it back in person. But in whatever way you have found to give, what you give in love, we receive with great joy. And we say, thank you. Please join with me now in singing our closing hymn, number 300, with Heart and Mind, with Terry and Daniel Sandoval singing. The words will be on your screen.
With heart and mind and voice and hand, may we this time and place transcend to
As I extinguish this flame, let us remember the light and the glow which has led so many to this place and has helped kindle the flame within us as we carry out our ability to transform ourselves and society. May you be healed from those stories that have brought you pain. May you, in this week, find the ways in which you have found support and a listening ear. May you, in finding your agency, your verve for life, transform your stories as a moral tale for those who come after you or those in your circle. Because we're here on this earth as a reason, a purpose, to share ourselves. And though we extinguish this helper candle, we know that helping flame and light goes on with us. May you go about your week and find joy. And may you come back again to this place of love. Blessings on you.